Today I'm going to be reviewing some simple genetics and also how to complete a simple Punnett square. Punnett squares are used by biologists to predict the possible outcomes for the offspring of a breeding experiment. In order to complete a Punnett square, you must know the genotypes of the two parents involved. The genotype refers to the alleles that an individual possesses for a particular gene. This diagram shows two chromosomes, and you can see two alleles for one gene. A gene may code for eye color, hair color, height, intelligence, things like that. So it's the interaction between the alleles that determine an individual's phenotype. The phenotype refers to the characteristics that an individual displays as a result of the alleles that they have. Normally, alleles are either dominant or recessive. If you have two alleles that are identical, they are said to be homozygous. This shows two homozygous dominant alleles, and this shows two homozygous recessive alleles. As long as the alleles are the same, then whatever characteristic they code for will be shown in that individual. For instance, if the capital letter B represents brown eyes, and this individual has two identical alleles, both coding for brown eyes, then the individual will definitely display the eye color brown. Generally, alleles are abbreviated using the first letter of the characteristic that they determine. So if this was for brown eyes, I've used the letter B. This shows a heterozygous genotype. If someone is heterozygous, that means that they have one dominant allele and one recessive allele. In general, dominant alleles are represented with a capital letter and recessive alleles are represented with a lowercase letter. Therefore, this shows two dominant alleles, two recessive alleles, and one dominant and one recessive allele. In this Punnett square example, we will look at flowers that can either be red or white. Red is the dominant allele and will be represented with a capital letter R. White flowers is the recessive allele, so this will be represented with a lowercase r. For this particular Punnett square problem, we have one plant that is homozygous recessive. So that means their genotype will be lowercase r, lowercase r. The lowercase letter represents the recessive allele, and in this case, the recessive allele codes for white flowers. So the parent plant has white flowers. The other parent is heterozygous. This means that they have one dominant allele and one recessive allele. That means that this parent plant will have red flowers because the dominant allele masks the recessive allele. Whenever you have a heterozygous individual, the dominant allele is going to mask the characteristic for the recessive allele. So the only thing that is displayed will be the dominant allele. In this case, the dominant allele is for red flowers. So this plant will have red flowers, not white, and not a combination of the two. In order to complete the Punnett square, you will need to create a square that has 4 boxes, and then you will write the alleles, the two alleles, for the first parent on the top and for the second parent along the side of the square. In order to fill out the square, and to do that, or actually after you do that, this will show you the potential offspring that these two parents could create. So in order to fill out the square, you will first bring down the letters into the boxes that are below them. So this lowercase r has been brought down into this box and this box, and this lowercase r has been moved down into this and this box. The second and final step is just to move these alleles over into the boxes that they are next to. So this capital letter R is moved over into these two boxes, and the lowercase r is moved into these two boxes. Now you have the completed Punnett square. So this shows you the potential offspring that could result by mating these two plants. So by looking at the results, you can determine that the possible genotypes for these two plants' offspring would be either heterozygous, capital R, lowercase r, or homozygous recessive, two lowercase r's. 50% will be heterozygous and 50% will be homozygous recessive. Based on that, you can figure out which characteristics these plants will display. The 50% that are heterozygous will have red flowers, and the 50% that are homozygous will have white flowers.